Okay, guys, we're in chapter 17, section 1, starting on page 518. Reconstruction plans. American Diary. Major Henry Rathbone tried to seize John Wilkes Booth after Booth shot President Lincoln at Ford's Theater. As Booth leaped over the railing of the presidential box onto the stage, Rathbone cried, quote, "Stop that man," close quote. Rathbone later stated, quote, "I then turned to the president. I saw that he was unconscious and supposing him mortally wounded, rushed to the door for the purpose of calling medical aid," close quote, from the assassination of President Lincoln and the trial of the conspirators. Reconstruction debate. Main idea. Government leaders disagreed about how southern states could rejoin the Union. History and you. Have you ever had an argument with a friend? How did you resolve your differences? Read to learn how the North and South tried to work out their problems after the Civil War. Major Henry Rathbone and the rest of the nation were deeply shocked by Abraham Lincoln's assassination. 4 years of Civil War followed by the president's death shook the nation. The Union was saved, but Americans still faced the difficult challenges of reuniting and rebuilding their country. Southern states, because they had left the Union in 1861, needed to be readmitted. The economy and the society of the devastated South also needed to be rebuilt. Americans disagreed bitterly, however, about how to accomplish these tasks. This period of rebuilding is called Reconstruction. This term also refers to the various plans for readmitting Southern states to the Union. Lincoln's plan. Before his assassination, President Lincoln offered the first plan for accepting the Southern states back into the Union. In December 1863, during the Civil War, the president announced what came to be known as the 10% Plan. When 10% of the voters of a state took an oath of loyalty to the Union, the state could form a new government and adopt a new constitution that banned slavery. Lincoln wanted to encourage Southerners who supported the Union to take charge of the state governments. He believed that punishing the South would serve no useful purpose and would only delay healing the torn nation. Lincoln offered amnesty, or a pardon, to all white Southerners who were willing to swear loyalty to the Union, except Confederate leaders. In 1864, 3 states under Union occupation, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Tennessee, set up governments under the plan. These states then became caught in controversy when Congress refused to seat the states' representatives. The Radicals' plan. Some Republicans considered Lincoln's plan too forgiving. They favored a more radical or extreme approach and were called Radical Republicans. Radical Republican Thaddeus Stevens declared that Southern institutions must be broken up and relaid, or all our blood and treasure have been spent in vain. Congress was controlled by the Radical Republicans and voted to deny seats to representatives from any state that was readmitted under Lincoln's plan. In July 1864, Congress passed the Wade-Davis bill. To rejoin the Union, a state had to meet several requirements. First, a majority of the state's white males had to swear loyalty to the Union. Second, only white males who swore that had not fought against the Union could vote for delegates to a state constitutional convention. Finally, any new state constitution had to ban slavery. The bill would also bar former Confederates from holding public office. Lincoln refused to sign the bill, but he wanted new state governments to form quickly so that order could be restored in the South as soon as possible. Lincoln realized that he would have to compromise with the Radical Republicans. The Freedoms Bureau. In March 1865, Lincoln and Congress set up the Freedoms Bureau. The Bureau helped African Americans adjust or adapt to freedom. It provided food, clothing, and medical services. It helped freed people acquire land or find work for their fair wages. The Bureau also set up schools, staffed mostly by teachers from the North. It gave aid to new African American institutions of higher learning, such as Atlanta University, Howard University, and Fisk University. Reading check. Contrasting. What were the differences between Lincoln's views and the Radical Republicans' views concerning Reconstruction? Johnson's plan. Main idea. After Lincoln was assassinated, Andrew Johnson became president and announced his plan of restoration. History and you. How do you think Abraham Lincoln's death might affect plans to unify the Union? Read about President Johnson's Reconstruction plan. Shortly after the Freedoms Bureau was founded, a tragic event took place that shocked the nation. On April 14, 1865, President Lincoln attended a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. John Wilkes Booth, an actor and Confederate sympathizer, entered the private box and shot Lincoln in the head. Lincoln died several hours later. News of the president's assassination swept across the nation. African Americans mourned the man who helped them win their freedom. Northern whites grieved for the leader who had saved the Union. When Lincoln died, Vice President Andrew Johnson became president. Johnson was born in the South but supported the Union during the war. Johnson soon revealed his plan for Reconstruction. Called Restoration, his plan would grant amnesty to most Southerners once they swore loyalty to the Union. High-ranking Confederates could be pardoned only by appealing to the president. This provision revealed Johnson's desire to humiliate the leaders who he believed had tricked the South's people into seceding. Johnson also allowed only loyal, pardoned whites to vote for delegates to the state constitutional conventions, stating that, quote, white men alone must manage the South, close quote. Johnson opposed equal rights for African Americans. Before a state could re-enter the Union, it had to denounce secession and ban slavery. States also had to ratify the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, passed by Congress in January 1865. This amendment abolished slavery throughout the United States. By the end of 1865, all Confederate states except Texas had new governments and were ready to rejoin the Union. Reading check. Specifying. What did the 13th Amendment accomplish? Section 1 review. Please define the following: Reconstruction, amnesty, radical, adjust. Main ideas. Number 2, explaining. Why did Lincoln disagree with the harsh Reconstruction plan of the radical Republicans? Number 3, specifying under Johnson's restoration plan, how could high-ranking or wealthy Confederates gain a pardon? Okay, that takes care of Chapter 17, Section 1.